did. We were having fun. We were like college roommates. We didn't really want to work those 18-hour days. And the show tested.
Once upon a time, there were 3 little girls. Aaron Spelling had the uncanny ability to see the invisible. When others...
September 22nd, 1976. 8 p.m. ABC television. America sits down expecting another predictable cop show, but what appears on screen is something the country has never seen before. 3 women, guns, fast cars, bikinis, independence, and a voice, a male voice, coming from a speakerphone, giving orders, controlling everything, never showing his face. His name is Charlie, and for the next 5 years, he will make 3 women the biggest stars on television while remaining completely invisible. The show is called Charlie's Angels, and it will become one of the most watched, most controversial, and most misunderstood programs in TV history. Critics will call it Jiggle TV, trash, exploitation, proof that television was rotting American brains. Feminists will be torn, some seeing it as empowerment, others as betrayal. And millions of viewers, men and women, will tune in every week, unable to look away. But here's what nobody talks about. Here's what gets buried under the posters, the hair, the bikinis, and the nostalgia. Charlie's Angels was a battlefield, a war between what women wanted to be and what men wanted them to be, between independence and control, between progress and performance. And at the center of it all was an invisible man who never had to justify his power because he never had to show his face. This is the story of 3 ex-cops who were told they weren't good enough for real police work. This is the story of how TV tried to sell feminism by wrapping it in a red swimsuit. This is the story of Farrah Fawcett, who became the most famous woman in America after 1 season and then walked away, breaking her contract and nearly destroying the show. This is the story of Kate Jackson, the smartest woman in the room who nobody wanted to market because brains don't sell posters. And this is the story of how a sitcom about women solving crimes became a cultural experiment that asked one dangerous question: can you be empowered if someone else is always in control? Don't forget to hit follow, because what comes next will make you rethink every girl power moment you've ever celebrated and question whether independence is real if it only exists because a man allows it. The year is 1976. America is confused. The women's liberation movement has been raging for over a decade. Women are demanding equal pay, reproductive rights, freedom from being defined solely as wives and mothers. They're burning bras, protesting beauty pageants, entering male-dominated professions and refusing to stay quiet. But at the same time, the culture is terrified. Men don't know what to do with angry women. Conservatives believe feminism is destroying the family. And TV executives are stuck in the middle, trying to figure out how to give women what they want without scaring men away. That's where Aaron Spelling and Leonard Goldberg come in. They're producers, smart ones, and they see an opportunity. What if you could make a show about powerful, independent women, but make it safe? What if you could give women guns and careers and authority, but also make sure they're beautiful, sexy, and non-threatening? What if you could sell feminism, but only the kind that men can enjoy too? So they create Charlie's Angels. The concept is deceptively simple. 3 women, all former police officers, frustrated because they were stuck in feminine roles. Sabrina Duncan was assigned to the switchboard. Jill Munroe was put in traffic. Kelly Garrett was stuck as a secretary. They were trained, they were qualified, but the police department didn't care. To them, women belonged in support roles, not the field. Then one day, they get recruited by Charlie Townsend, a mysterious millionaire who runs a private detective agency. He offers them real cases, real action, real detective work, and they accept. But here's the catch. They never meet him. They never see his face. They only hear his voice through a speakerphone. He controls everything. He assigns the cases. He decides the rules. He pays their salaries. And they obey. Without question. Without hesitation. Because that's the deal. You get to be independent, as long as you remember who's really in charge. The original trio is iconic. Sabrina Duncan, played by Kate Jackson, is the brains, strategic, serious, the one who actually reads the case files and figures out the clues. Jill Munroe, played by Farrah Fawcett, is the athlete. Blonde, charismatic, a pilot, the one everyone remembers. And Kelly Garrett, played by Jacqueline Smith, is the heart, elegant, intuitive, emotional, the one who connects with people. Together, they're supposed to represent a new kind of woman, tough but feminine, smart but sexy, independent but still appealing to men. And it works. The show explodes. Within weeks, Charlie's Angels is a ratings monster. Top 10, then top 5, then number 1. America can't get enough. But here's what's really happening. Two different audiences are watching two completely different shows. Men are watching because the women are beautiful. Because every episode features the angels in bikinis, tight dresses, undercover as dancers, models, prisoners, roller derby girls. Anything that allows the camera to linger. Critics coin a term for this. Jiggle TV, television that exists to show women's bodies in motion. Tits and ass TV, as some cruelly call it. The angels rarely wear bras, the camera loves slow motion, and the cases always require the women to go undercover in situations that involve as little clothing as possible. Farrah Fawcett herself jokes about it years later, saying, "When the show was in third place, I thought it was our acting. When it hit number 1, I figured it must be because none of us wears a bra." She's laughing, but she's also telling the truth. The show's success is built in large part on sex appeal, and everyone knows it. But women are watching for a different reason. For the first time in their lives, they're seeing women as the heroes, not the girlfriend, not the secretary, not the victim who needs saving. The heroes. Women who drive fast cars, carry guns, solve crimes and save the day. Women who don't have husbands, who don't need men to rescue them, who work together, support each other, and win. For young girls in 1976, this is revolutionary. They've never seen anything like it, and they're obsessed. They buy the posters, they copy the hairstyles, they play Charlie's Angels on the playground, arguing over who gets to be Jill. To them, the bikinis don't matter. What matters is that for 60 minutes every week, women are in control. Or at least that's what it looks like. But here's the uncomfortable truth that starts to emerge. Are the angels really in control? Or are they just performing a version of independence that men designed for them? Think about it. Charlie is invisible. He never appears. He's just a voice. But he's always there, watching, listening, deciding. The angels don't choose their cases. Charlie does. They don't set the terms. Charlie does. They don't even get to meet their boss face to face. They just obey. And critics start asking, isn't Charlie the perfect symbol of patriarchy? Power that doesn't need to show itself because it's so absolute it can remain hidden? The angels think they're free. They think they're independent. But they're still working for a man. They're still taking orders. They're still performing for his approval. And the fact that he's invisible makes it even more insidious. Because if you can't see the control, it's easier to pretend it's not there. Then there's Farrah. Farrah Fawcett becomes the face of Charlie's Angels almost overnight. Not because she's the best actress, not because her character is the most interesting, but because of a poster, a red swimsuit, a $1 million smile, and hair that becomes the most copied hairstyle in America. The poster sells 12 million copies. 12 million. It hangs in dorm rooms, bedrooms, garages across the country. Farrah becomes the most famous woman in America, and she's only been on the show for 1 season. But fame comes with a cost. Farrah wants to be taken seriously. She wants to do movies. She wants creative control. And after 1 season, she walks. She breaks her contract. She tells Aaron Spelling and ABC that she's done. The producers are furious. They sue. And after a brutal legal battle, they reach a settlement. Farrah agrees to come back for 6 guest appearances spread across the next few seasons. But she's gone, and the show has to replace her. Enter Cheryl Ladd. She plays Chris Monroe, Jill's younger sister, and the transition is brilliant. Instead of pretending Jill never existed, the show acknowledges her absence and brings in family. Cheryl Ladd is younger, sweeter, less threatening than Farrah, and she works. The ratings stay strong. The show continues, but something has shifted. because Farrah's departure exposes a truth the show tried to hide. These women are replaceable. You can swap out an angel, and the machine keeps running. The show isn't really about Sabrina, Jill, or Kelly. It's about the formula. 3 beautiful women, 1 invisible man, and an audience that will watch as long as the women look good and do what they're told. Then Kate Jackson leaves. After 3 seasons, she's exhausted. She's been fighting with the producers for years, trying to get the show to be smarter, deeper, more substantial. She wants the angels to be real detectives, not just pretty faces in disguise. But the network doesn't care. They know what sells. And it's not complex storytelling. It's Farrah in a bikini. So Kate walks. And the show brings in Shelley Hack as Tiffany Wells, but Shelley doesn't fit. The chemistry is off. The ratings dip. And after just 1 season, she's out too. Replaced by Tanya Roberts as Julie Rogers in the 5th and final season. By now the pattern is clear. The only constant is Jacqueline Smith, Kelly Garrett, the only angel who stays from beginning to end. The only one who never leaves, never complains, never demands more. And maybe that's the lesson. If you want to survive in a system built by men, you stay quiet, you stay beautiful, and you don't ask for too much. But let's talk about what the show actually did. Because beneath all the bikinis and the jiggle and the criticism, Charlie's Angels changed something. It put women at the center of an action show. It made little girls believe they could be heroes. It opened doors for Cagney and Lacey, for female detectives in the 80s and 90s, for every action heroine that came after. Without Charlie's Angels, Hollywood would have taken even longer to accept women as leads in crime dramas. The show proved there was an audience for it. A massive audience, and that mattered. But it also set a standard, a dangerous standard. It said, yes, women can be heroes, but only if they're beautiful, only if they're sexy, only if they don't threaten men too much. It domesticated feminism. It took the anger, the fire, the revolution of the women's movement and turned it into entertainment. It said, you can have independence as long as you look good doing it. And that's the legacy. Charlie's Angels is both progress and compromise. It's empowerment wrapped in exploitation. It's 3 women with guns who still answer to a man they've never seen. It's a show that made millions of women feel powerful while quietly reminding them that power always comes with conditions. The show ends in 1981. 5 seasons, 110 episodes. The ratings have dropped. The formula is tired. The culture has moved on. But the impact remains. The hair, the poster, the theme song. The idea that 3 women can save the day, as long as they do it in heels. And decades later, when Hollywood reboots the franchise, first in 2000 with Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu, and again in 2019 with Kristen Stewart, they face the same question. Can you make Charlie's Angels without the male gaze? Can you have angels without Charlie? Or is the whole concept built on a contradiction that can never be resolved? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Charlie's Angels didn't liberate women. It sold them a fantasy of liberation. It gave them just enough independence to feel empowered, but not enough to actually threaten the system. It let them carry guns, but made sure they looked sexy doing it. It let them solve crimes, but reminded them every episode that they worked for a man. And it convinced a generation of women that this was progress, that this was enough. But it wasn't. Because real independence doesn't come with conditions. Real power doesn't require approval from an invisible man on a speakerphone. Real feminism doesn't need to wear a bikini to be taken seriously. Charlie's Angels was a negotiation. TV executives negotiating with feminism, trying to give women what they wanted without losing male viewers, trying to sell empowerment without making it too radical. And for a while it worked. The show was a hit. The Angels became icons, but the cost was high. Because every time a woman put on that red swimsuit, every time she took orders from Charlie without question, every time she smiled for the camera instead of demanding to be taken seriously, the message was clear. You can be powerful as long as you remember your place. So when you think about Charlie's Angels, don't just remember the action, the glamour, the nostalgia. Remember the lesson, the dangerous, complicated, frustrating lesson. That representation isn't the same as liberation. That visibility isn't the same as power. That putting women on screen doesn't mean anything if they're still performing for the male gaze. Charlie's Angels gave us three incredible actresses. It gave us iconic moments. It gave us a blueprint for action heroines. But it also gave us a warning that progress without real change is just performance, that independence controlled by someone else is just another cage, and that sometimes the most dangerous lies are the ones we want to believe. The Angels thought they were free, but Charlie was always watching, always listening, always in control, and he didn't need to show his face, because the power was never really theirs to begin with. If this story made you see Charlie's Angels differently, if it made you question what empowerment really means, don't stay silent. Like, share, and subscribe so we can keep uncovering the truths hiding behind the icons we celebrate. Because sometimes the most important stories aren't the ones they told us, they're the ones they didn't want us to see. Charlie's Angels was never just a TV show, it was a test, a question, a gamble. Can you sell feminism without actually giving women power? The answer, it turns out, is yes, as long as you make it look good, as long as you make them smile, and as long as you never let them forget who's really in charge. But there's one more layer to this story, one more uncomfortable truth that nobody wanted to talk about then, and many still avoid today. What happened to the women who said no? What happened to the Angels who refused to play the game? Because while Jacqueline Smith stayed quiet, smiled for the cameras, and became the only angel to survive all 5 seasons, the women who demanded more, who wanted control, who tried to break free from the formula, they paid a price. And that price tells us everything we need to know about what Charlie's Angels really was. Let's start with Kate Jackson, the one the media barely marketed, the one whose face wasn't on the posters, the one who was, by all accounts, the best actress of the original trio. Kate wasn't just playing a character, she was fighting for the show to be something more than Jiggle TV. Behind the scenes, she challenged scripts, she pushed for deeper stories, she wanted the Angels to be real detectives, not just pretty props in disguise. Writers and directors respected her. They called her the intellectual anchor of the cast, but the marketing machine didn't care. Because brains don't sell swimsuit posters. Beauty does. And Kate Jackson, despite being beautiful, was too smart, too demanding, too serious. She wanted the show to matter, and that made her dangerous. So when she left after season 3, exhausted and frustrated, the show didn't mourn her. It replaced her, quickly, quietly, with someone more compliant, and Kate's career never quite recovered. She did other shows, other projects, but she was never again the star she could have been, because she made the mistake of believing that talent mattered more than obedience. Then there's Farrah, the one everyone remembers, the one who became the biggest star in America and then walked away. People think Farrah left because she wanted movie stardom, and that's partly true, but dig deeper and you'll find something else. Farrah wanted creative control. She wanted to be more than a poster. She wanted to act, to grow, to be taken seriously. And the producers said no. They said, "You're here to look beautiful and do what we tell you. That's the job." So Farrah broke her contract. She fought a legal battle that could have destroyed her career. And when the dust settled, she was forced to come back for 6 guest appearances, humiliated, controlled, reminded that no matter how famous she was, the system was more powerful. And here's the cruelest irony. Farrah spent the rest of her career trying to prove she was more than the red swimsuit. She did serious roles. She did TV movies about abuse, about cancer, about real pain, and critics still called her the Charlie's Angels girl. Even in death, even after a public battle with cancer that she documented with heartbreaking honesty, the obituaries led with the swimsuit, the poster, the hair, as if that one image, that one moment of being exactly what men wanted her to be, defined her entire existence. And then there's Shelley Hack, the angel nobody talks about. She lasted 1 season. 1. Why? Because she didn't fit the formula. She was too sophisticated, too polished, too much like a real professional woman and not enough like a fantasy. The network wanted someone viewers could project onto, someone non-threatening, someone who felt accessible. Shelley was none of those things. She was smart, elegant, controlled, and that made audiences uncomfortable, so they fired her. Not because she was a bad actress, not because the ratings tanked immediately, but because she didn't perform femininity the way the show demanded. She didn't giggle enough, didn't flirt enough, didn't make men feel like they could possess her through the screen. And for that, she was erased from the narrative. Most people don't even remember there was an angel between Kate and Tanya. Shelley Hack became a ghost, a cautionary tale, a reminder that in the world of Charlie's Angels, there was only one kind of woman allowed to succeed. Now think about what this means. Think about the message this sends. Charlie's Angels told little girls they could be detectives, fighters, heroes, but it also taught them a darker lesson, that their value depends on how they look, that independence is conditional, that power is something men grant you, not something you take, that if you demand too much, ask for too much, want too much, you'll be replaced, because there's always another beautiful woman willing to say yes, always another angel willing to follow orders, always another face ready to smile for the camera and pretend that performing empowerment is the same as having it. And this is where the legacy gets truly dangerous, because Charlie's Angels didn't just shape TV, it shaped how an entire generation of women understood their own worth. It taught them that being pretty and powerful at the same time was the goal, that you could have it all, as long as all meant what men decided you could have. It created a template that we're still following today. Look at every strong female character in action movies. Look at every superheroine in a skin-tight suit. Look at every girl boss who has to be beautiful, likable, non-threatening, and sexually available to be taken seriously. That's the Charlie's Angels effect. That's the poison pill wrapped in empowerment language. You can be strong as long as you're sexy. You can be independent as long as you don't make men uncomfortable. You can be a hero as long as you remember to smile. But here's what nobody tells you. The women who worked on Charlie's Angels knew this. They felt it. In interviews years later, even Jacqueline Smith, the one who stayed, the one who played the game perfectly, admitted there was a cost. She said the show gave her a career, gave her fame, gave her opportunities, but it also trapped her. She became Kelly Garrett, forever. Every role offered to her after that was just a variation, the pretty one, the kind one, the safe one. She played the game so well she forgot how to be anything else, and Kate Jackson said it even more bluntly. She said the show could have been important, it could have meant something, but the producers were too afraid, too committed to the formula, too invested in keeping women exactly where they wanted them, powerful enough to be interesting but controlled enough to be safe. So when we look back at Charlie's Angels now, over 40 years later, what do we see? Do we see progress or do we see a warning? Do we celebrate it as a step forward for women in television? Or do we recognize it as a masterclass in how to co-opt feminism, sanitize it, package it, and sell it back to women as empowerment while changing absolutely nothing about who holds the power? The answer is both. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because Charlie's Angels did open doors. It did prove that audiences would watch women in action roles. It did inspire a generation of girls to believe they could be more than wives and mothers. But it also set the terms. It said, yes, you can be more, but only if you do it our way, only if you stay beautiful, only if you don't threaten us, only if you remember that we're still in charge. And that's the lesson we still haven't learned. 50 years later, we're still making the same compromises, still celebrating representation while ignoring who controls it, still calling it progress when women get to be in the room, even if they're not allowed to change the rules, still believing that visibility equals power, when all it really means is that now we can see the cage more clearly. Charlie's Angels was never about liberating women. It was about making liberation look sexy enough that women would buy it and men would allow it. It was about finding the perfect balance between giving women just enough to feel empowered and taking just enough away to keep them controlled. And it worked. For 5 seasons, for 110 episodes, for millions of viewers, it worked. But the women who lived it, the ones who wore the costumes, said the lines, smiled for the cameras, they know the truth. Some of them, like Jacqueline, made peace with it. Some, like Kate, walked away angry. Some, like Farrah, spent their whole lives trying to prove they were more than what that show made them. And some, like Shelley, just disappeared, erased from history because they didn't fit the fantasy. And all of them, every single one, paid a price for being part of a show that promised freedom but delivered performance. That sold empowerment but required submission. That put women at the center of the screen but kept a man's voice in control, invisible, unreachable, absolute. That's the real story of Charlie's Angels. Not the action, not the glamour, not the hair or the cars or the guns. The real story is about three women who thought they were heroes and a system that made sure they never forgot they were employees. It's about a generation of girls who grew up believing they could be anything, as long as anything meant beautiful, accommodating, and willing to take orders from men they'd never even meet. It's about how Hollywood learned that you don't have to stop women from having power. You just have to control what that power looks like. You just have to make sure that even when they're holding the gun, even when they're solving the case, even when they're saving the day, they're still performing. Still smiling, still saying, "Yes, Charlie," because that's the deal. That's always been the deal. You can have the spotlight, you can have the fame, you can even have the power, as long as you never forget who gave it to you, and as long as you never ever ask for more. All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on historical research and publicly available information. This video examines the cultural impact and legacy of Charlie's Angels as a piece of media history and its complex relationship with feminism and representation.